It was a Tuesday morning when the call came in, dry, calm, and formal. Mr. Tolu Ayeni. Yes, he replied, half distracted by an email. This is Attorney Leek from Fadi Chambers. I'm calling about your late father's estate. The reading of the will is scheduled for this Friday 10 a.m. sharp. The line went dead before Tolu could ask any questions. He stared at his phone for a moment. The room suddenly felt colder. Chief Sonia Ayeni had died 2 weeks ago after a short illness, just long enough for rumors to start spreading but too short for anyone to prepare. He was a respected name in Lagos business circles, a man with land, factories, and secrets. Everyone expected the will to be straightforward. It never occurred to Tolu, or his younger brother Deo, that anything would surprise them. But one person had been silent since the funeral, Ijeoma. Their father's adopted daughter. Quiet. Gentle. Always in the background. She had grown up in the same house with them, called their father Daddy just like they did, yet something about her always felt off. Not threatening. Just out of place. Like a guest that stayed too long. Tolu hadn't spoken to her since the burial. Neither had Deo. Friday came fast. The law office smelled of old books and new paint. The will reading was held in a private meeting room with a long wooden table and leather chairs. Tolu sat at the head, arms folded. Deo leaned back casually, checking his watch. Ijeoma sat quietly beside them, hands in her lap, eyes lowered. Attorney Leek cleared his throat. We are here to fulfill the final wishes of Chief Sonia Ayeni. All parties present. Yes, Tolu replied. The lawyer pressed play on a recording device. The chief's voice crackled through the speaker, strong, proud, slightly slower than they remembered. If you're hearing this, then I am gone, he began. Tolu, Deo, and Ijeoma. This message is for the three of you. Tolu glanced at Ijeoma. She hadn't moved. I built everything from the ground up. My blood, my sweat, my mistakes, they're all in the walls of our home. And I want my legacy to go to someone who will honor it. There was a pause. Ijeoma. Tolu sat up straight. Deo's eyes narrowed. To Ijeoma Mnemna Ayeni, I leave the Ayeni estate in its entirety, land, businesses, and assets. There was a dead silence in the room. Tolu's jaw clenched. Deo sat forward. Excuse me. There is a letter attached to this recording. My reasons are there. Tolu, Deo, I love you both. But Ijeoma is the rightful owner of everything. The recording ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Tolu stood slowly. Is this a joke? Attorney Leek handed him a sealed envelope. These are your father's final words in writing. I don't care what's in that letter, Deo snapped. This is madness. She's not even his blood. Ijeoma flinched but said nothing. Tolu opened the letter with shaking hands. My sons. If you're reading this, I know you would angry. I understand. But you need to know why. Ijeoma is not just your adopted sister. She is the daughter of the man I betrayed to start my empire. I ruined her father's life, then brought her into mine out of guilt. I never told her the truth. But she carried herself with grace, even in silence. You both had opportunities. You wasted them. You mocked her. Ignored her. She is the one I trust to build, protect, and forgive. This is not a punishment. It's justice. Your father. Tolu dropped the letter. Deo grabbed it, read it, and slammed it on the table. Ijeoma, you knew, he barked. She shook her head. No. You expect us to believe that. I didn't know, she whispered. Attorney Leek stood. This concludes the reading. You're free to contest the will in court, but everything is legal and recorded. Tolu stared at Ijeoma. Her face was unreadable. But her hands were trembling. Outside, the rain began to fall. Rain drummed on the car roof as Tolu drove in silence. His grip on the steering wheel was tight. Deo sat beside him, breathing hard, fists clenched. She played us, Deo said suddenly. She didn't, Tolu muttered. You heard the letter. She didn't know. Deo scoffed. Please. Who lives in that house for 20 years and doesn't know she's a chameleon? Tolu didn't respond. His mind was spinning. Ijeoma. Quiet, obedient, soft-spoken, now the owner of everything. Their father's empire. Their childhood home. Even the land their own names had been written on. She's not even his real daughter, Deo continued. We are blood. Tolu exhaled slowly. Maybe blood wasn't enough. Ijeoma sat alone in her room. The house felt like a stranger. Too large, too still. The maids had avoided her since she returned from the lawyer's office. No one had congratulated her. No one even looked her in the eye. The estate that once felt borrowed now sat heavily on her shoulders. She opened the envelope attorney Leek had handed her. Inside were documents, bank accounts, company shares, keys, passwords. But what caught her eye was the smaller, older envelope at the bottom, unmarked, sealed with red wax. She hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. Ijeoma, I owe you more than an inheritance. Your father, Samuel Nwachukwu, was a better man than me. I built my empire from the land I took from him. He died in prison because of a lie I told. He was your real father. I raised you to honor him, not myself. Do with my empire what I should have done, give it back. Chief Sonia Ayeni. Her heart dropped. Tears filled her eyes. She had never heard the name Samuel Nwachukwu. Never wondered deeply about her past. Her earliest memories were already in the Ayeni house. Birthday cakes she was too shy to blow out, school uniforms she didn't ask for, hugs she never fully believed. She hadn't been chosen. She had been atoned for. Later that evening, Tolu and Deo stormed into the house. Ijeoma. Deo called. She stepped into the hallway, calm but pale. So, what now? Deo spat. You going to kick us out? No. Tolu folded his arms. You expect us to believe this wasn't planned? I didn't know, Tolu. I didn't ask for any of this. But you won't give it up, will you? Deo growled. You'll keep everything. She swallowed. I haven't decided yet. That's convenient. It's not a game, she said quietly. I just found out who my real father is. I just found out that I'm not even part of your family. You were never part of this family, Deo snapped. That hit harder than he expected. Tolu looked at her. What did the letter say? She hesitated. It said, he wronged someone. And he wanted me to make it right. So you're the redeemer now? Deo mocked. No, she whispered. I'm just trying to figure out who I am. The next day, Ijeoma walked the estate grounds with the housekeeper, Mama Tenny. The old woman had served the Ionis for 30 years. Ijeoma, she said gently, you've always been kind. But kindness alone won't protect you now. I don't want to fight them. You may have no choice. The world doesn't like a quiet girl with power. Ijeoma looked up at the balcony where she used to sit and read as a child. I never asked for this. But you were chosen, Mama Tenny said. Whether by fate, blood, or guilt, that name is now yours. That evening, a letter was slipped under Ijeoma's door. She opened it. You may hold the keys, but the kingdom is not yours. Watch your back. Some things were never meant to be inherited. There was no name, just ink, and warning. Ijeoma stood at the tall living room window, clutching the anonymous letter in her hand. The words echoed like a curse. Some things were never meant to be inherited. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, her phone buzzed non-stop. News of the will had leaked. Blogs, gossip sites, and even a few newspapers were already spinning their own versions of the story. Adopted daughter steals empire from blood-sons. Ayeni brothers betrayed by orphan girl. Silent heiress inherits fortune through deception. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter. Not in public court. By noon, she received a message from a board member of Ayeni Holdings. Emergency board meeting. Monday. Be there. They weren't wasting time. Meanwhile, Tolu and Deo sat in their late father's private study. Tolu had been silent for most of the day, flipping through old documents, receipts, and letters. Deo paced behind him. We're wasting time. We should file a case now. She has legal rights, Tolu said calmly. And we don't. You know what happens if we drag this through court? Everything gets aired. Papa's secrets, business deals, even his crimes. So what? Let it burn. Tolu turned. You're not thinking. Deo clenched his fists. We built this too. We worked with him. We bled for this name. Tolu gave a tired smile. When? What? When did we build anything? You chased models. I chased contracts. We were living off his name, not building it. Deo stared at him. So what, you're just going to let her take everything? Deo asked. Tolu shook his head. No, but I'm not going to make it easy for her either. At the board meeting on Monday, Ijeoma walked into the conference room with Mama Tenny beside her. The room was filled with men in suits, whispers, and stares. Miss Ayeni, one of them began, you now hold controlling shares in Ayeni Holdings. But with all due respect, you have no experience running a company of this scale. I understand, she said. Another cleared his throat. The board has concerns about public image, trust, and stability. The shareholders are nervous. I'm not here to disrupt the company, Ijeoma replied. I'm here to honor my father's wishes. But I do want transparency. Real numbers. Real decisions. No buried deals. Is that a threat? One of them asked. No, she said softly. It's a promise. That evening, Tolu received a text from an unknown number. If you want the company back, I can help. I know things she doesn't. But I don't work for free. Call me. He hesitated. Then called. A smooth voice answered. Tolu Ayeni. Finally. Who are you? Someone who knows Ijeoma's real bloodline. And who can destroy it. Across town, Ijeoma sat at her desk, going through an old box marked Nwachukwu. It was the only box left untouched in Chief Sonia's office. Inside were photos, documents, letters. One caught her eye, a photograph of a man in handcuffs, standing in front of a prison gate. Samuel Nwachukwu. Date of arrest, September 14, 1996. Charge, land fraud. But at the back of the photo was a scribbled note. He warned me I'd regret this. He was right. Her stomach turned. Had her father lied about the betrayal? Had Samuel been innocent, or just another player in a game? The truth was still buried, and someone was going to dig it up. That night, a knock came at Ijeoma's gate. The security guard came to her window. Ma, there's someone here for you. Says she's your aunt. My what? She says her name is Ngozi Nwachukwu. Ijeoma's and shook. My father's sister. The guard nodded. She says it's time you knew what really happened. The woman who stepped into Ijeoma's living room looked nothing like the aunt she had imagined. Ngozi Nwachukwu wore a faded blouse and headscarf, her skin weathered by years of hardship, but her eyes, sharp, unflinching, held no fear. You look like your father, she said without smiling. Ijeoma sat down slowly. I don't even know what he looked like. Ngozi reached into her bag and handed her an old photo, Samuel Nwachukwu, standing with a woman and a little girl. Ijeoma was the child, barely 2 years old. He wasn't a criminal, Ngozi said. Your father was a surveyor. Clean. Educated. Trusted. But he was arrested for land fraud. He was framed. Ngozi's voice was flat. By your so-called adoptive father, Chief Sonia Ayeni. Ijeoma linked. Ngozi continued. Samuel mapped that land. Registered it under our family. Sonia Ayeni wanted it for his new cement factory. When Samuel refused to sell, he accused him of using forged documents. He had friends in the ministry. 1 week later, Samuel was in jail. Ijeoma's hands tightened on the photo. He died in there. Alone. And you vanished. We searched. Cried. Your mother went mad. We buried her last year. Tears filled Ijeoma's eyes. I didn't know. Ngozi leaned forward. But now you do. And you own everything he stole. So what are you going to do? At that same hour, in a dark hotel room across town, Tolu met with the mystery caller. He was a man in his 50s, grey at the temples, wearing a plain black kaftan. He introduced himself as Colonel Alobi, a former company accountant and fixer for the late Chief Ayeni. You want the company back, Colonel said. I want protection. And my name cleared. You help me, I help you. Tolu hesitated. What do you have on her? I don't have anything on Ijeoma, Colonel said. But I have enough to blow up your father's legacy, including the fact that some of the company's original land titles were illegal. Stolen. So why bring this to me? Because if this girl finds them before you, she could destroy you in court. Publicly. I'm offering you a way out. Tolu leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. He thought he had power. He thought he had time. But had none. Back at the estate, Ijeoma sat across from Ngozi, staring at the documents spread out on the table. Birth certificate. Court records. Land registry printouts. Letters her mother had written from a psychiatric hospital. Why are you showing me this now? Ijeoma asked. Because you deserve the truth, Ngozi said. But more than that, because power without truth is just another lie. And you're standing on stolen ground. What do you want me to do? Give the land back. To the Nwachukwu family. To your blood. Ijeoma okayed up slowly. And what about everyone else who's been living off this land for years? The workers. The farmers. The tenants. Ngozi paused. That's your burden now. Deo sat alone in the garden that night, staring into the fire pit. Tolu walked out and joined him, silent for a while. She's not backing down, Deo said. She's meeting with some auntie, digging into the past. Tolu nodded. Good. Let her dig. The deeper she goes, the more unstable the ground gets. I don't trust you when you talk like this, Deo muttered. You want to win? Tolu asked. Then stop thinking like a brother. Start thinking like a survivor. Ijeoma Alden T. sleep. The estate felt colder now. She felt like a stranger in her own body, torn between two names, two legacies, two ghosts, Chief Sonia Ayeni and Samuel Nwachukwu. She opened her laptop and began drafting a letter to the board. Effective immediately, Ijeoma N. Ayeni will begin a voluntary audit of all company land holdings, starting with the Oberland and Okokomeko regions. Pending findings, redistribution, and legal restitution may be considered. She saved the file but didn't send it. The war hadn't started yet. But the ground beneath them was already breaking. The boardroom was silent when Ijeoma entered, dressed not in silk or jewels, but in a simple blue blouse and dark slacks. The room full of men who once doubted her had gone quiet, not out of respect, but out of fear. She walked to the head of the table and placed a folder in front of her. This, she said, is the land audit. The executives exchanged glances. 3 parcels of land under Ayeni Holdings are illegally acquired. The records were forged. My father knew. So did several of you. One man scoffed. You're bluffing. She opened the folder. Oberland. Okokomeko. Orile. Survey maps, signed affidavits, original family claims. All here. Another board member cleared his throat nervously. And what do you intend to do with this? Return them, Ijeoma said, to the families, and issue formal apologies. Chaos erupted. You'll bankrupt the company. You'll ruin the Ayeni name. She's a traitor. I'm not here to protect a name built on theft, she said. I'm here to build one that can stand without hiding bodies. One man stood slowly. It was the chairman, Chief Lawal, a close ally of her late father. He looked around the room, then at her. Let her speak, he said. The room fell quiet again. Ijeoma met his gaze. My name is Ijeoma Nwachukwu, and I won't hide it anymore. Meanwhile, Tolu watched the boardroom chaos from his car screen. Someone inside was secretly feeding him updates. He didn't feel victory. He felt something worse. Fear. If she succeeded, the company would survive, but the Ayeni legacy would not. Then his phone rang. It was Deo. You need to come home. Now. Why? It's Mama. The family matriarch, Mrs. Florence Ayeni, was lying on her hospital bed, breathing heavily, oxygen mask in place. She's been holding in too much, the doctor said. The stress, it's catching up. When Tolu entered, she motioned weakly for him to come close. He bent beside her, and she pulled down the mask. You need to let it go, she whispered. Let what go? The fight. The anger. Your father's ghost. Tolu looked away. Ijeoma, she continued, was never our enemy. She was our mirror. What we refused to see in ourselves. She gripped his hand tightly. If you keep fighting her, you'll lose more than the company. Back at the estate, Ijeoma stood in front of the ancestral shrine her adoptive father once prayed before. For the first time, she lit the candle herself. I don't know if I should be angry or thankful, she whispered. Maybe both. Ngozi stood beside her, silent. Do you want revenge? She asked her aunt. Ngozi shook her head. I want peace. And I want you to be more than a shadow of both men. I don't know who I am anymore, Ijeoma said. Then become the one they feared you would be. After the prayer she retired to her room with her auntie. 1 week later, a press conference was held. Ijeoma stood before cameras, journalists, and flashing lights. She introduced herself not as the heir of Chief Sonia Ayeni, but as the daughter of Samuel Nwachukwu. She announced the restitution of illegally acquired lands. She exposed the bribery, the forgery, and the silence that let it all happen. And then she did something no one expected. She resigned. I have no interest in titles. Only truth. The board will continue operations, but not under my name. My family will establish the Nwachukwu Foundation for land justice and family restitution across the country. That is my inheritance. 2 months later, Tolu stood outside the foundation building. He watched as children entered for free legal workshops. Farmers stood in line for land dispute support. And there she was, standing in the sun, laughing with a widow. He walked over slowly. I didn't think you'd come, Ijeoma said. I almost didn't, he replied. They stood in silence for a moment. You did good, Ijeoma, he said. You could too, if you stop running from the truth. He nodded. Maybe. Before he left, he looked back at her. I'm sorry we never treated you like our sister. She smiled. I'm not your sister, Tolu. He nodded. Fair enough, but you're something more, he said. That night Ijeoma walked alone through the old Ayeni estate, now handed over to charity. She stood in the middle of the empty hall and whispered, I am the daughter of a man who was wronged, and the woman who made it right. The candlelight flickered behind her as she walked away, free. Thanks for watching.